know that without this, basically, go, ooh, 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 I know, you know, and then you don't, and then once they say, I know, and they say it, it's gone forever, because I'm looking out the window when they're talking, you know, but I got it here as an enhancement. Also, someone who would be less inclined to do that, say, gee, maybe I'm going to say something that no one else is going to agree with, but in reality, maybe it's quite profound. They can do it here, they can do it safely, and it's there in writing if they want to own up to it during the conversation. By the way, I'm the one that did that here. If you have a question, ask me, and I'll be able to answer. And this is sort of an enhancement tool that you can use to engage a deeper conversation. Now, am I reading this right?
Spot on.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you.
I also like, sorry, someone else. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I also like the art thing, because I think what it's actually done is it made the kids go through the museum a third, fourth, fifth time. They're looking to see what their friends do. I love the doppelganger one. That was an awesome idea. And and I could see the kids sort of like say, oh, what did you pick for your doppelganger, and so on and so forth. So it actually, I think they probably, where if you were doing a general history or art thing and throwing a slide up and talking boringly, now notice the curves of this and notice the strokes of this, and it's a lot different than when they're actually not only experiencing it for themselves, which they would do walking through a museum, but also sharing their experiences in a way that's kind of cool. So very, very clever round. Sorry, I jumped in.
Not at all.
Thanks very much. I guess the Padlet that we're talking about right now is just one of the many technological tools that we're using to create our personalized digital learning environment, correct? And the one that they were talking about in the video is Flipgrid, which is something different, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be talking about multiple of the various technological tools that are being employed within the classroom tonight, or are you going to be focused just on the Padlet?
That was the only one we were going to dive into hands-on today,
Okay.
but I think the whole time yeah, we can go. So, but yeah, Flipgrid, just as a really quick context, it's a tool throughout the district for students. Think of it like an online discussion forum where people typically type responses one after the other, but this is instead it's a video conversation, where that instead of having a live Skype or hang out with somebody through a video chat, it's a series of asynchronous videos that are created to have a running discussion. So one way that we've seen it used is connecting with experts in the field, where we may not be able to get someone from a university to meet with every class throughout the day, but if we can get them to add 3 or 4 contributions to that grid, they could actually have a running conversation with students in our district without the logistics of having to have a particular live hangout. And again, to get back to the point Dr. Andre was making is the idea of amplifying student voice and giving them a say in their learning and some more ownership of it. We found that a tool like that empowers them quite a bit, which you saw in that quick presentation that they did at Learn Launch.
A quick question. When this is going on, are all the students that are doing this in the same room together?
Yeah, we found out the hard way is that if you have all of them trying to make a Flipgrid at once, it doesn't work too well. It's very loud and a lot of things are happening. So we're working on instructional strategies where we may have some students working on a Flipgrid response, some students working on math problems, a couple of students maybe conferencing with the teacher, and just working on different personalized learning strategies so that we can do this within the context of the school day and that it makes most sense. But yeah, that is something that our digital learning teams have been working through. What is the best way to use these technologies?
I know that we aren't necessarily here to talk about Flipgrid, but the way that you just described it working just prompted a question in my head, which is what is the philosophy behind that sort of asynchronous conversation working better through the creation of video discussion as opposed to audio discussion or even just the written text?
So one big thing that we've seen is that through a lot of these technologies, we can make the physical learning, the physical environment visible to students. And one example is a Flipgrid that some middle school students engaged in last year were actually with a researcher working in Antarctica showing parts of the lab to the students through the videos is something that you couldn't really communicate that through text alone. So there are a lot of things that we see experientially that can be amplified through video that get lost through text.
I have one kind of comment question. I love how they use the term connected learners. And I think it sounded like what they were talking about was connecting with each other in the classroom, but then I always think about that Antarctica experience as well, and how they're able to connect with people and experiences outside of their small space here. And so it just got me thinking that I love that I see my 7th grade daughter, you know, engaged in this digital learning. And at the same time, she's in a classroom debating. I mean, they'll have, just to your point, that there's a very real interaction, social interactions going on where they're having conversations and debates, but then they're also doing this, which I think helps students at this age get their thoughts in order. It's easier to sit, I think, sometimes and think and kind of get your thoughts down than when you're just in a class put on the spot. So I think to have both things happening, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? That's how I see this as an enhancement to the more traditional classroom experience.
I get what you're trying to say, but what I really found more important about the video was that they were actually in front of people engaging with them. And so no matter how much you try and make students comfortable, in the end you still have to engage. And you can't go through life without engaging. So yes, it's a good tool for, we used to call it an outline, but you could call it whatever you want in order to get your thoughts together. So I don't think that it's a tool that we should discard by any means. I just think it's also important and is one of our learning goals to be able to communicate with other students and teachers in a real situation. That's all. So yeah.
Hey Tom, I think this is great. You know, I heard her daughter speaking up there, and then I was distracted because I'm trying to, you know, see Erin and give her a thumbs up. Hey, your daughter's over there. Of course, I was distracted from the video as I'm trying to put my questions down, and I find it hilarious. But that's the whole point about the teaching tool, is that you can find out who's distracted, who's not focused. And then you, as a teacher, can pick up whatever comments are made from students, and you can direct the conversation as you want. That's what it appears like. Do you have any feedback, a lot of good feedback from teachers and students? And if so, what are you hearing? Thank you.
So thanks. Some of the feedback I've heard from the teacher side of things is that a lot of these strategies aren't new. Like, we've always been trying to get formative assessment data on students. What are students thinking? And a lot of these tools help streamline the process and make it so that a teacher that has a full classroom has more of an opportunity to actually see what students are thinking at different parts of the learning cycle, which is really empowering to them, because a lot of times it's just really hard to do that in another way. And from the student side, to get back to Dr. Andre's point, they like just being more active and involved. So there's a lot less sitting and waiting to be called on. There's a lot more doing. And, you know, kids like to be more active when they're in school, and I think I mean, we see that with the 2 girls that presented. I mean, they definitely own this. They own that presentation. They work hard on it. So I think that that's a big part of it as well, is that it's just a lot more student-centered, active learning environment for the kids. And then, as you can see with that art project, is that it provides some more real-world authenticity to it, because there was a purpose behind that Padlet. It wasn't some contrived lesson. Like, they were curating what they experienced at the museum to share with each other. That's a real learning experience, and these tools are helping make that more possible.
Thank you.
I have one more question, and I'm sure this happens, but I wonder about, because I feel like part of this kind of different education technology must be some trial and error with what works, what's really going to be effective in a classroom and what's not. So do you go through this process where there's like, something, not in this case a Flipgrid, but something else that might come along that you try and think is going to work well, it doesn't work out, and then you push that to the wayside, and, is that part of that process to keep up on all this stuff?
As long as it's strategic abandonment.
Oh.
So yes, that's been something we've been doing, is as we go through these pilots and try things on. Frankly, we're in the middle of a discussion right now about one that we may not go forward with, because for a variety of reasons, from an IT side, from a teaching and learning side, from the budgeting side, there's a lot of factors and variables involved in it. We're taking a close look at each one of these. The price point on Padlet's pretty good. It's free, so we like those when they work well. But even for the paid, particularly for the paid software subscriptions, we really want to take a close look at, is it meeting our needs instructionally, does it make sense across those different domains? And we're involving teachers in the process as well. A lot of the pilots that are requested, we have a new process where they go through all those different areas before it even gets considered, just so that they can have some more ownership and be part of the process as well as we test out these new technologies.
Just along those lines, Eric, I know if Mr. Driscoll can talk about the action research. I know I've included in many of my reports the action research going on that talks about the process of how we adopt, scale, and then eliminate. So the action research and the DLCs, that would be great.
Yeah, so just a real quick example on that. The only reason we really started using Padlet a lot was because 2 years ago, the Gutierrez School's digital learning team made this a focus of their action research, and we found that it did enhance teaching and learning across a few different domains, so that then we started to scale it from there. Another example is we did a pilot with one called Recap, similar idea, but we found out that it didn't work. So we actually made a point to not keep testing that, not keep piloting that, not to start a pilot with this idea that we're just going to pilot and scale. Well, you don't scale if it doesn't work. So we pilot things and be really honest about it. If it does work, then we spread that strategy, and if it doesn't, then we'll, even with free tools, because free tools, I've said this during our meetings, like a free ed tech tool is kind of like someone hands you a free puppy. It's not really free. Right? You still got to take care of it. You got to feed it. It takes time. It takes resources. These ed tech tools, even the free ones, they take time to go through and curate. They take time to look at the privacy policy. They take time to provide professional learning. So even for the ones that are out there that are in that domain of free, we're still taking a close look at those too, because there are still resources and time that go behind using those as well.
And following up, I think this follows naturally from both what Aaron was just asking about and what Dr. Andre followed up with. And that is, I imagine even with the tools that work and have fantastic applications that definitely enhance learning, such as the way that you described Flipgrid or the discussion that we've had about Padlet tonight, there's certainly the opportunity for those to be, even if unintentionally, misused or not used in a way that is best suited to enhance learning, but can have unintended consequences either through the way that the students interact with them or through the way that the teachers end up using them. So I guess my question is, can you talk a little bit about what the district's approach is to monitoring and managing those challenges, even with the tools that work well?
Yeah, so this will make the next part of the presentation go quicker, so I'll just hit it. So there's two parts to that. One part is about the professional learning with staff. How do we use these well? And that's something that we've been doing the action research. We have our digital learning coaches, our R&D team. We'll probably go into a slightly different phase next year, but even honing even more so about great instructional practices. And as of now, we have over 30, actually close to 40 teachers involved with the digital learning teams in some capacity. So they're providing support on the ground for these types of things. From the technical aspect, I think you mentioned like monitoring and usage. There are a few things that we've put in place to help wrap our arms around all these educational technologies. Even this morning, we're having further conversations on different tools that we can use as a district to help streamline the process of use of subscriptions, and then also for student data and privacy, because that's a gear in our future-ready gear, is how do we keep student data privacy concerns on the forefront, and that's something that we're considering with every one of these tech tools. And then also as far as helping the community and families, we have a Hugh Cole Tech Night coming up. We're having a session dedicated specifically to raising digital citizens from the parent standpoint. So what are some student data and privacy things that families in Bristol Warren should be cognizant of beyond educational technology software, just things that the kids have access to at home. Okay. Real quick before I hand over to Rose, just a couple quick things I'd like to celebrate. Again, big kudos to the students and the Canvas teacher Jen Sarin that were honored at Learn Launch a couple weeks ago. It's a great honor. They only took, I think, about 15 different schools from the country to highlight in this particular conference, and they did a great job representing our district. Our digital learning teams have been doing a great job of working together this year, sharing best practices. We've had several occasions where they've been able to work together face to face, sharing what's working, sharing what's not. And then the coaches that have been involved in the program for 3 years now are in a more of a leadership role in helping the new cohort that are in this. And then also a shout out to our IT team. And if you guys are familiar, but they won the Tech 10 Awards from Rhode Island Monthly not too long ago. So that's a picture of them. They were featured in the magazine in, I think, the December issue. So congrats to those guys. And then just a couple of things on infrastructure. And turn over to Rose.
Although you started it already, Tom. So one of the Future Ready gears that we've been working on and have had some really good success with the cooperation of our administrative staff and with the support of the school committee is building our robust infrastructure. And Tom stole my thunder a little bit when you were asking Mr. Ramos about how is it that you vet all this, how do you know what's going on, how do you police this, using that word kind of strongly. But we need to have a greater awareness of what it is that we have, keeping our finger on the pulse of how those are all changing. Where is it that we're going? How do we structure it so that we're going in a pace that people can move along and it's not too much, too little? And different protocols that are involved in moving towards that effective scale-up so that we can have a successful student, successful teacher, and make it so that our digital learning is successful. Also, different policies that we put in place lay that foundation for the digital learning, personalized learning, the responsible use policy. We just looked at modifying that to include some web filtering protocols that is required by the state. And as Tom said, we're really ramping up our foundation for student data protection. As we've all experienced the different data breaches in the news, our students really are at risk too. So we're trying to lay that foundation a little bit more securely now and move that, scaling it up and educating our teachers as to best practices. And along with moving towards the personalized learning, we have support structures that are needed in the classroom, in the back end, making sure that the IT side of things is transparent so that people are not worried about, can I log into my Chromebook? Will I be able to get to the right site? Those things should just happen like magic so that no learning can occur. One of the things that we've been working on very strongly all the time actually is our budgeting and our planning. We have a 5-year plan for device refresh, and that's done in collaboration with all the instructional leaders and the principals, and also the central administrative team. And we've, through the use of E-rate funds, which is a federal program, we've been able to stabilize the network so that all of this learning can occur. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the E-rate program, but I liken it to a process of doing your taxes on a quarterly basis because there's a lot of forms to make sure that you have it on time. There's follow-up from those forms. There's audits that you have to respond to. But doing all that preparatory work and follow-up work guarantees us a 50% reduction of the pricing for all of our wireless infrastructure expenses. So we've been able to plan for those, which is what E-rate requires you to do, and then file for them, and then reap the rewards of getting that funding. So for example, the next budget, or the budget that we're working on now, we are going to be requesting something like $90,000 for infrastructure, for network infrastructure. Being that we've filed our E-rate properly, we'll be paying half. So it's a good bang for it. And also the tech acquisition and accountability. So not only are we distributing devices, but we're making sure that people are accountable for that device that was distributed to them, and making sure that they're using it properly. And I know this is a little bit small, but you should be familiar with this, but this is part of our device refresh plan. So last year when we went to leasing the devices, we were able to provide all students in grades 6 through 12 a Chromebook. And this is our plan for refresh. Chromebooks enjoy a 3-year lifespan. So this is the plan whereby every 4th year we would be renewing the lease on the Chromebooks and at what grade level that they would be getting refreshed. So you can take a look at this and know when it is that we're going to be coming before you and requesting funding for that refresh so that the digital learning and personalized learning can occur seamlessly. Do you have any questions?
Rose?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Okay. My question has to do with a problem that's taking place in Providence where the students are able to access pornographic sites. And I'm just wondering, what are we doing here to prevent that?
We have a web filter that blocks the students from accessing pornographic sites. That being said, I mean, an industrious student who really wants to get around that filter probably could, but to Tom's point when he answered a question about there's no better use than that, face-to-face teacher in the classroom, the teachers also have to be diligent as to monitoring the students. But we do have a web filter in place, but we still need the person.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a different kind of filter question in a minute. But the exercise we just did, what grade levels are you doing that at right now?
It's mostly grade 6 and up, but there is some 3 to 5.
Thank you.
Yes, 6 and up, but there are some, oh, I'm sorry. Grade 6 and up, but there are some grade 5.
6 and up? Is there a plan to do all grade levels? What's the VR? You're going 6 and up now. What is there a plan to do anything else?
Well, this tool is available to all teachers, so